Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fierce Honest Hearts. I am Heidi Ferguson, and next to me is Fidesta Ramsey. And wow, here we are in the beginning of July. Wow, already halfway through the year. We've seen a lot of eclipses and a lot of new moons and a lot of old moons and all this stuff, and we just keep going. So I'm going to check in with something that I am feeling really good about. So my family visits typically once a year on the East Coast, and I have two sisters, and I'm in the middle, and they came close to Philadelphia, and I met them, and we had brunch together, and it was really sweet. And what I realized is that the last time we got together was when my sister was pregnant with my niece, who is almost 23. And that was the last time the three of us had been together alone. So it was kind of a big deal that, that we were doing this. And it was just really sweet to have, some time, just 2 hours together to catch up and share. And of course, there's more that we can do. And as I was sharing it with Fidesta before we started recording, we're going to have a monthly call. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever talked to especially my younger sister so much. And I'm like, wow, this is new. And it feels good. Like I'm excited about it. What is going on with me? So for the last week, I would say 7 to 10 days, I have been really struggling with my sleep. And I have been really struggling to fall asleep anywhere between 3 and 4 in the morning. Yeah. And I have been doing my best to kind of change my routine and change my cycle, not nap at different times. And none of it's really working. And I'm just like, okay, so I feel like I need to dig deeper, that there's something more for me to see that I'm not looking at, that I'm not seeing. And so I'm sitting in it. I'm sitting in the sacred pause, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to wait. I don't know what it means. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's just that it's been, and I'm one who really needs her sleep. And if I don't have it, I can really be, I am just not myself. Like I feel like my whole body clock is off, not just my sleeping, but my eating and what I want to eat. And I am also feeling a lot more foggy. Like I'm just not as clear-headed, and it takes me a little bit longer to figure out a task or make a decision about something. And I'm like, God, this is not who I normally am. So I'm feeling a little bit out of sorts. And yeah, and I'm like, okay, so this is where I am right now, and doing my best to embrace it, because it's not going away for the moment. And as I think about, it's now 5:15 almost, I'm like, I can't even imagine what I might have for dinner. That feels so, making that decision for me feels so taxing. I'm like, I can't even. So I'm just noticing the different ways it's affecting me. I think I'll stop there for now. Yeah. And how are you, my friend?
Wow. Well, before I even go there, I feel tenderness in my heart for you, knowing what I know about you and how you guard your sleep and how it impacts you. You said 7 to 10 days, and I was like, holy shit. That's a long time to, I guess, just be off balance, right? Just that energy. And And I also just love going deep, starting off this way, right? Like here you are, you're doing everything you can. That's what I'm hearing. And there's like this experiment that's having to happen where you're trying to have your back. And what I didn't hear in there, which was interesting for me, I didn't hear like frustration. I didn't hear like the tantrum that I think I would be feeling, right? The kind of tantrumy, annoyed energy. And I just found that interesting that the acceptance that you're working with. This is where it's at. Here's what I'm going to do for myself. And if it's not working, you're not necessarily, I don't experience you as being like super crappy, right? And I hear the vulnerability of, and can relate to this from a different place, of being foggy or being slower, tasks seeming more arduous, right? Like that sounds like exhaustion on a certain level. And that's where I can pick that piece up because, as you know, my weekend had its own challenges as it related to my inner world and my hormones, and it also impacts my sleep to have like pain, and my like moon time cramps seem to be like, oh, it's 11 p.m. like let's begin. They're like they're when I'm active they're better, and when I stop it's worse. So I relate to that place, which for me is like such a sense of exhaustion that I almost don't want to talk. I'm just kind of like I want to conserve energy. That seems to be what's going on for me in those moments. And a certain vulnerability is how I experience it, of like, I'm not as fast as my partner. He's like, well, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What kind of cuisine do you want? Which on a normal day, no problem. And it's like, where do I want to go? And there's already like, what kind of cuisine, and do you want to go up here or there, right? Like, and it's all done with love. But I feel like I can't keep up. And then I feel vulnerable. And what I am holding there that I don't get like even a whiff of with you, which is just making me very curious, is my shame monster comes up, right? That's like, I can't keep up with him. It's because I'm a woman. It's because I'm going through this thing. It's not fair. Like, this sucks. And like, why do I feel like I boarded a crazy train on Friday and I can't get off of it? So I'm getting really cool intel on where my shame monster lives. Right? That's kind of the win. As weird as it is, it's like, wow, I'm pretty compassionate with myself in so many other areas, but here I just have complete shame. And like you, I don't quite know all the details of why that is. So I'm sitting in the sacred pause of like, wow, that's the most shameful I feel. What's that about? And to your very astute point, when we talked earlier in the week, like, how much againstness energy am I pumping into this? Like, what happens if I don't? I'll just accept or yield to reality in those moments, which sounds funny to say, but I think most of my energy depletion is fighting against reality during those days, because I'm normally so bright and awake and alive and like sharp, and I maybe over identify with that. So the days I'm dull and slow and feel vulnerable, I just feel vulnerable. Yeah, that's my share. Still in it, a little, not embarrassed to share it, but like it's an edge for me to share it.
Okay. So I can really appreciate the vulnerability piece, and and kind of on the fence, on the edge about sharing it. what I'm struggling to understand about you is your ability when you're on your A game and you're go, and you're, efficient and you're task oriented and you're producing, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have something that shifts, right? And so you are not on your A game. And then the first thing, that's what I'm hearing, the first thing that comes in is shame.
Yeah, I'm not even on my D game, right? Like it's
Right.
the contrast, it's the drop that brings on the shame. Like whoever I identify with as the overachiever, the academic, the very capable of holding a lot of things person, I have yet to really embrace the part of me that doesn't want to hold all that. Right? That wants to rest, that wants to put two middle fingers up to all that productivity. And that then is fighting to rest, I guess, which isn't restful.
No.
So it's a pattern I want to break. Right?
Yeah.
Of judging myself for needing down days. And that those, I think specifically those down days are not like entirely within my control. They're not like, I'm going to take a 3-day weekend.
Right.
They're like, oh, okay, here it is. I got to switch gears. And I don't do it. I do it incredibly reluctantly.
I was going to say, you're doing it with resistance. With a lot of resistance, which also doesn't work.
No, it's completely insane, right? Insanity's doing the same thing over and over again.
It's counterintuitive.
It's not like, oh, wow, I just produced an amazing harvest the last 3 weeks. Let me just rest. Right. It's like, oh, that's who I think I am. The producer and the achiever and the performer and the here's the thing. If I was to guess, if I was my own client, I'd say I've somehow tied my worth to achieving. So that's the only place, the ego is the only thing taking the hit. Yeah. Right? The human animal is pretty happy to take naps and eat food and watch a movie.
Yeah.
It's the ego that's like, oh, is something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you shared was just wonderful. That was like, why not just welcome that part? And it's like, wow, could it be that simple? Like,
well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I can either make it really challenging for myself and go to the places that you're going, because I have enough shame and guilt in my life to last a lifetime. So I can either do that when I'm feeling really low and crappy, or I can be like, let's embrace it. Let's see what happens, because I don't have the answers. And so I have to sit and wait until this clears. And I don't know how long it's going to go on, but I have to wait. And I could be irritated with myself for the last 7 or 10 days and be like, oh God, Heidi, I can't believe, blah, whatever. And I'm like, no, that sounds too hard. Because I know when I'm at my lowest and I'm sleep deprived and I'm not clear and I'm not making it, I'm not being productive, like all the not, that I can, talk about the bottom of, I feel like I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, Heidi's barrel, right?
Yeah.
So I've been there. And I get that there's quite a few years between us, right? Like and I would also say that, I'm going to just tell you right now, once you turn 45, 50, you're going to be like, seriously, there's something that shifts. And you're just
I look forward to it.
I don't care. I just don't care. I have me. I love me. I'm taking care of me. And the rest of the world, can't worry about it. I can't worry about what other people are putting on me. And if I don't put all that crap on myself, I'd be a lot happier. Yeah. And so I would rather feel as good as I feel in all of this. And I don't feel great. I'm not sick. I'm just like, okay, And I'm all, and I also want to be feeling like I'm living my best life, doing the best
No
that I
matter what.
no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what. I mean, if I'm in bed with kidney stones, that's a whole other, like, that's a whole other level, right? Like, I can't, there's literally nothing I can do. But I'm still able to, you know, correspond and do an
Mhm.
IG live that didn't work so well or whatever, right? Um, yeah.
Yeah.
And so what is, you know, what is the deeper meaning? Like, that is, I think, important to consider, to look at, to be curious about. And, you know, and of course, the courage that it takes to be like, oh, I'm putting that aside and I'm gonna move forward. Because that's not easy either.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing, right? You talk about like being worried about what other people think and stuff. And here's the interesting thing in my life, right? My partner signed up for this, right? He's aware that there's 2 or 3 days where I'm like down for the count and I'm mopey and I'm tired and I like I don't want to eat unless you're gonna throw some food at me. Like I'm just tired, right? He's okay with it, right? He might end up washing
Right.
more dishes, cooking a few more meals, taking out the trash, like and to his credit, he's like he's not fighting against the reality.
Right.
He's like, that's okay. I can make our pizza and I can get on the barbecue and I can make the cocktails. And why don't you just rest on the couch? It's me.
I know. I know.
Because he's like, okay, it would be the same as if you had the flu for 3 days. I'd get the egg drop soup and I'd wash the dishes and I'd check on you. And so how come this one's so charged?
Yeah.
Right. And it's really true because if I have the flu, I have no problem resting.
Right.
So it's charged around that feminine place, probably my own trauma. And also, you know, we talked about in our last episode, like the witch hunt of the feminine to some degree.
Yeah.
There's that grief is always in my body,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That grief, that unfairness, the like corrupt policing of the feminine, right? In all its forms. And you said something which has stuck with me, stuck in my psyche. It's like, what if whatever was pent up needed to come up at that time? It's like, what if nothing went wrong? Yes, your crazy banshee came out, but all of it was still truth. It wasn't skillful truth, right? But it was truth nonetheless. What if that just had to be what it was?
Uh-huh.
I don't think I've ever considered that.
Yeah.
I considered it like I did it wrong.
Yeah.
So thank you. Because yeah, it's important. Like I come out of that fog and I'm like, wow, I was really hard on myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been that hard on you.
Right. So I'm
Right? Or
curious.
Lindsay or my partner. Like I
Right.
wouldn't be, I'd be like, oh my God, you're sick, lay down, who cares? I'll turn on the TV for you.
Yeah.
And yet, why am I holding myself to some,
Yeah. Some
I
I want to say ridiculous standard.
was going to say superhuman,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is also ridiculous because I'm human, right? But it's like, why would I hold myself to some standard that isn't achievable at that time?
Yeah.
Like you being sharp and focused and bouncing around on a go-go stick is not possible if you haven't slept for 7 to 10 days,
No, it's not.
you know? So
It's impossible.
you're not beating yourself up.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. So I'm curious, I have a question for you. So when you're in this space of judgment and shame, etc., and you're feeling bad, so you're feeling bad physically,
Yep.
feeling bad emotionally,
Yep.
while you're in it, in your soup, right?
In the soup without my normal like skills.
Yeah. Okay. So then when you come out of it, how does it feel to come out? Like, are you still beating yourself up because you treated yourself so badly? Wow.
Because I come out of it and I go, holy shit, I made up this whole story. I created a whole conflict. I sat in my little victim seat. I like made it really hard on myself. So there's remorse.
Yeah.
There's not self-blame, but there's definitely like a bit of guilt and remorse, like, wow, like the train derailed and I was
Yeah.
driving. Right? Because I just also want to bust the myth. I might be trained in relationships and have that education. Doesn't mean I handle my nervous system well 100% of
Right.
the time.
Right.
Right? So my nervous system got so dysregulated that my behavior got so dysregulated. And my pride and joy is we can get dysregulated on the inside, but we don't dysregulate our behavior. Right? That's the ideal. But we're animals. So
Right. Right.
possible. Yeah. So yeah, there's a little bit of residue.
Mm-hmm.
Or when I come out of the fog and go, wow, I went into some deep quicksand and I couldn't get out.
Yeah.
I couldn't get out. That's like where whatever I think I'm supposed to do there isn't working. Now, if I totally like surrendered for 3 days and just rested, I think I could eventually like learn to enjoy that. Because it actually sounds lovely, but it's sort of like the decision was made for me. So it feels forced. Like it wasn't my choice in that time.
Whose choice was it?
Well, I mean, I'm guessing Mother Nature's, right? But like it wasn't my choice to slow down then. So I get mad about it. Isn't that funny? It sounds crazy when I say it. I'm just being super
Right.
honest.
And I'm going to say this as gently as possible. We have control over nothing.
Yes, but you could, tell that to my ego on like amplified hormones. It's like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm the general manager of the universe. This shouldn't be happening, right? I'm laughing because I'm watching it, which is so cool.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also like when I fall into that undertow, it feels like a real undertow, like getting pulled underwater. Can I remember this moment of coming out of the fog? Right? Like this will pass, this isn't real. You don't have to believe every thought you think right now.
Right. Right.
I'm having a shadow laugh because I think I do. I start to believe all the thoughts I have. And it's the only time of the month that I don't have like the reins. I think that's the headline. It's the only time I don't have the reins on my nervous system the way I would like. Because I'm masterful otherwise,
Yeah. That's great. Well, that's great self-awareness.
So it's kind of like, I'm on someone else's horse.
Right.
No?
Yeah.
So I think it's me accepting that I'm human.
Yay. I think that's half the battle, or at least 3/4 of the battle.
Yeah.
None of us are super. None of us are superheroes, superhumans, whatever. None of us. Yeah. Embracing your humanity. It's so.
And smashing the fantasy that like I'm gonna always be this achieving, extraordinary, sharp human, right? It's humbling. It's severely humbling.
It's very humbling. It is supremely humbling. And I would also say that I wouldn't trust you. I wouldn't even.
Always positive, you mean?
What? Yeah.
If I was just always bubbly and
I
positive.
would be like, you're full of shit. Because nobody is. Nobody is. And if someone is putting up, putting on a mask or pretend, whatever it is, I call bullshit, and I can't trust that. Because
they're presenting. They're presenting.
That's what they're doing. They're presenting. And I can't relate to that. That's not reality for me. I can't relate to it. I want to relate human to human in all of your stuff.
I love that. Thank you for saying that. Because for me to be able to be like, to show up to you and be like, I was a crazy banshee this weekend. And I got some shit to clean up in my relationship. And God bless my man who just kind of treats me like a drunk person for those couple of days.
Yeah.
You know, he's just kind of like, I just want to make sure you're fed, you get to bed. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he really, it's amazing because I think you could be so like really impacted by someone who's like losing themselves for a couple of days,
Yeah.
right? And I say to him, like, I forget the hell I fear the hell I experience when I forget who I really am for those couple of days. And I forget, like, this isn't you and neither's the overachiever, right? Like, none of it's really you. You're just like, you're okay. But this place you're talking about being trustworthy, it's really important to me, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're only trustworthy if we're being real.
Right.
And I know how I feel when I meet someone and I feel like they're just like staying on the superficial layer. I'm just like, you know, when you sniff someone out and you're like,
Something smells
you're
funky.
not comfortable, you're not okay with yourself.
No.
Yeah.
Something smells funky. Because they're not always going to smell sweet and pretty. Something is smelling funky.
Yeah.
If someone's not being honest.
How do you, because I'm curious how it impacts you when someone's sort of like saccharine, that's my word, right? Like kind of artificially sweet.
You really want to know?
Hell yeah.
I walk away. I won't even give them the time of day. Because I can smell that shit a mile away.
And do you feel like it's disrespectful to you? Like if someone just shows up with like a front?
100%. Because it is. And not only is it disrespectful to me, but they're also not respecting themselves because they're not embracing all facets inside of themselves.
Yeah.
They're faking it. And quite honestly, it's one thing to fake it for other people, but when you're faking it for yourself, wow, I feel for that person who can't even be real with themselves.
Like so far in strategy, they don't even know they're in strategy.
Yeah. And it's painful. And I have a lot of empathy and it feels painful to me, but I also realize like that is just not my fish to fry. I've done my work. I don't need to fix anyone else. And I'm still a work in progress, you know?
Amen.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone? I feel like this is going to be a fun question. I don't even have my cards, but this is coming up. What would you say to someone who was conditioned to be positive?
Who was what to be what?
Like conditioned in their upbringing to be positive.
Yeah.
And they maybe have some judgment around like what they consider like negative. You know, maybe them complaining or blaming or whatever. Like, what would you say to someone who was trained to like be optimistic and how that might not be real? Like it might not be trustworthy, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would need, in the midst of a conversation, I would just see how they react or how they respond in the conversation. And if they are staying in the land of pretense, I would probably ask them, I would, because I'm pretty direct. I would just say, so what's really going on here?
How are you really?
What's really going on here? Because I don't know what this is, but it's not you. Like, I'm not feeling you. I'm not seeing you. I'm not witnessing you. And I want to have relationship with you. But if you're this, like you have all these masks on and you're acting like life is great and fabulous, etc., etc. It's okay when things are great to believe that and to feel that, but that is not 24/7.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna be really straight with you, and I'm gonna call bullshit. I remember years ago, this was in a community that I was part of, where a portion of the work is where we talk about our families of origin. And I heard this person say, I grew up in a very Ozzie and Harriet type of family.
My alarm bells are going off, but go on.
Right. And I went like this, and I said, really? Tell me a little bit more. So they shared a little bit more. And I said, can I really be honest? And they're like, sure. And I said, I call bullshit, because nobody lives there's no family. There is not one person that I know in my world, and you're not going to be the only one that is this way, but I don't know anyone who does not have any dysfunction
and sadness and grief
and real and grief and sadness and trauma. Like, we all have it. If you're ignoring it and you tell yourself that you grew up in this Ozzie and Harriet family, you go ahead, but I can't be around that. I don't identify with it. You and I will not have anything in common. It's the way it is.
Well, you're not being let in, is what I'm hearing.
No, at all. Right. And so if I'm not being let in, I'm not going to be able to develop trust so that I can let that person into my life. Like, it has to be a two-way street. And so if there's this, veil or mask, whatever, this wall up, and I can't reach you, I can't get in, then I don't even know what to do with that. Like, I find it very confusing. I'm like, how do you relate to people?
Well, you're not being trusted and let in, so how can you feel resonance, right?
Right.
All of that.
Yeah.
And this is actually, it's interesting, because as we're talking about this, what's coming up for me is me with my moon time alone is much easier to handle than having my partner around. And it has nothing to do with his vibe, his energy. He's incredibly provisional, and he's happy to chip in. Like, he's like, I get it, right? But it's a level of intimacy that's hard for me. Right? We all
a little bit more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so we all have like an intimacy tolerance, right? We all have kind of a setting. It might have been from our childhood, our blueprint as kids, our relationship blueprint. And I think the places where my shame monster still exists feel super intimate. So to be seen in my messiness, to be seen in like, I don't even know where the reins are on this horse, right? Like, not even like I'm having trouble holding the reins, but like, I don't know what happened to the reins.
Yeah. You can't even identify them and find them. Yeah.
And I forgot I'm supposed to be holding on to them, all of that, right? It's such a level of intimacy to be seen at, I'm gonna call it my messiest, right? And I think what I'm feeling emotion come up, because what touches me about that is like, I am loved in my messiness then by him. I have not yet gotten to the point of loving myself in that messiness.
Yeah.
So he's modeling it as like, no problem, like, rest. I'm sitting there going, gosh, but I should be able to do half the dishes, or I should be able to like chip in, or I should be like the worth, right? The worth thing. So it's healing, it's slow, but it's healing and it's reparative, because I'm receiving the fullness of his love, being like, you're still lovable, even though you are a fucking train wreck right now. Like, you are a disaster, like, in terms of, I'm going to call it like an emotional, what would be the right word? Like, I'm off the rails emotionally, not in control, but I'm still loved. That feels really intimate to me, Heidi.
Yeah, it is.
You know, to be loved when you're like vivacious and feminine, feeling good and ovulating, all the things, right? Versus to be loved when you're like, this is the part I hide from everybody. This is the part I don't know how to integrate yet. And like, you don't have, like, I don't think it's fun. He's not like, yay. You know, he's not like popping open the champagne about it, but he's also like, okay.
Yeah.
So it feels, it feels so intimate. That's kind of scary.
So I want to challenge you a little bit. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for sharing all that, because I just feel like your words will heal just by someone else hearing them and relating to them, will be very healing to them. Because I would assume, and I'm going to make an assumption, which I hate to do, but I am going to make an assumption by saying there are probably millions of women who feel out of control, right? Who really feel like they're maybe going mad or out of their minds, or, you know, all of that, right? So my challenge is this. What I heard you say is that you feel that part of you, you're scared to show your honey that part of yourself, right? And because of all of the things that come with it. And it's intimate and it's scary to show that part of you, right? And yet you are.
I'm not scared to show it. I think because I have no control at that point. I'm scared of someone being like, this is too much.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
But I am scared to show it too. I just have no control of it. Like, it's going to be shown, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So knowing that, are you also afraid of yourself not accepting that about yourself? Does that make sense?
I haven't yet. Okay. It feels really hard to accept that level of, I'm going to call it like victim seat, right?
Yeah.
And I'm healed every time I'm loved through it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And it's almost like involuntary intimacy, because it's like, here it is.
Yeah.
Sorry. And someone being like, I don't love it, but I'm okay. We can work it out, you know?
Right.
So yes, maybe it's even deeply like I'm still working on that intimacy with myself. They're all relationships.
Pardon?
I said they're all relationships, right? Yeah. But my relationship with my partner is showing me a modeling of how to just be with it, that my relationship with myself hasn't gotten to. Yeah. Do you have a place that's like that, where people can love on you in some part that you're like, oh my God, this is like the shame monster for me? Or you feel accepted by others maybe more than yourself?
Yeah. When I'm not knowledgeable about something, and I feel like I should be, yeah, because I don't like having my intelligence questioned. And I realize that I'm not Einstein. Like, I'm going to say that, like, that's kind of my scale, right? So you have Einstein, and then I don't even know what would be the other end, but like, let's say a rubber band, right? Like,
or a banana, right?
Or a banana, right? So anyway, and And I'm not one who brags about my intelligence. And again, not, I'm not a genius, but I do know, like, I know things. Like, there are things that I know, and I'm very good at figuring things out and doing research, all the things, right? But when there's something that I don't know, so for example, you and I have been working with Canva, and we've been working with, what's the other one?
Right?
Yes. For some reason, I feel like that is the bane of my existence. I'm like, I don't know what it is about this platform, but it doesn't feel intuitive to me. It doesn't feel intuitive. Like, I know there's a way in, I know I can get it, but it just takes me, like, just mentally a few more steps to get wherever I need to go, right? Canva, for some reason, I can blow through Canva. I find it really easy. It's simple, it's artistic, it's creative, like, so is the other one. Anyway. So that's, that piece, I'm like, oh God, I just, and I actually say to no, I would never, I don't think I've ever said, you're stupid, Heidi. I don't talk to myself that way, but I'm like, wow, why? The question that what comes up for me is the why. Why can't I figure this out? Why? It seems so simple to Foresta, like this, because you've done many, you've created.
You haven't seen the hours that I'm like, where the fuck's the edit button?
Okay. Yeah. See, I don't see that. I see you, someone who's accomplished in that platform, and I'm not. And so I'm like, Heidi, why is this so hard for you? Like, why? And then I go into the, like, trying to understand. I'm like, oh, no, I don't need to do that. I just want to figure it out, and the same way with, like, cropping a picture and saving it to that size. I kid you not, I have literally spent hours. I have watched, I'm not kidding, and I've watched probably at least 20 different YouTube videos. And I'm like, this, for whatever reason, is not working. It's just not working for me. And I'm like, I mean, I tell you, I've made so many attempts, and I'm like, I don't know. And so I'm actually pretty good. Like, I'll work and work and work and work, put it away for a long time. And then when it comes up again and I have to do it, I'm like, okay, but begrudgingly, like, okay, I'm gonna make an attempt. I'm gonna do it again. And I can really beat I'm like, why? It feels grueling. I'm like, why can't I figure this out? And then I'm also there's a part of me, I wouldn't say it's a big part of me, but I would say, like, this, there's a slice of the pie where I will say to myself, how come she can figure it out? How come this is so easy? This is so easy for her. I'll just let her do it. I'll do Canva, she'll do this, and we'll, Oh my God.
Can I challenge you here? Just a gentle challenge.
Yeah.
So I get curious around, right, the comparison piece.
Yeah.
And the piece where maybe you're not tracking that, like, the first time I did it, I did spend 3 hours not finding the edit button. Right. And being like, why the F did they not just make this more evident, right? Like, my ops brain is going, do I really have to search everywhere to find 3 dots? Am I supposed to know what 3 dots means? Like, so I consider it like poor ops on their part.
Yeah.
That's my go-to, because I'm also just built that way to be like, well, that's not evident to 100% of the people. That's not helpful. Edit your event as a button would be helpful, right? Yeah. So I get curious saying that. How come your first go-to is, why can't I do this, versus something about the system isn't user-friendly, I guess?
Because I think it should be easy. I think it should be figure outable. I think it should be, I mean, that's where I go. I'm like, shouldn't this be intuitive? Like so one of the reasons I got a Mac, and God willing that this is with me for the rest of my life, because I don't ever want to buy another Mac. I love my Mac so much. But one of the reasons I got a Mac is because it's intuitive. Like I find it to be such an easy, and even though they do a lot of updates, and they do a lot of updates, but unfortunately, I've never really had an issue with an update. Like I read the information that I feel is pertinent to me, and if I can't, I call Apple. Like they are on my top 10. Like they are fast dial, whole thing. Love them. Pay for them every month, but I love them, and for good reason. Anyway, and so that's why I got a Mac, because I really do find it very intuitive and easy, and just and I don't do a lot of graphics. I just do all the simple things, but I find it intuitive. So when I go to a platform or an app that is not intuitive and not user friendly, I immediately say to myself, well, this should be easy. Like humans create this, right?
But sometimes overly smart humans.
Right. And I think, but I eventually get there, but it's not my go-to.
Yeah, that was my curiosity, is like, how is the like making it about you versus making it about it's not an optimized system.
Yeah. I will work on that for sure.
Yeah. And I'm resonating right on my end of like, why do I make my moon time about something's wrong with me versus like, yeah, this is moon time. Just chill out.
Right.
Like stop fighting.
Right.
I don't actually see that with you. Like when we're screen sharing and I'm kind of popping through stuff, because I've probably done it at least 8 times in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like you're so experiential, you're soaking it up, right? You're like, you're learning by watching.
Yes.
And I even noticed it today where I was like, oh, who would ever know those 3 dots mean anything? I know that's where you edit the event, but I remember that being hard-earned wisdom over hours,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's sort of holding for you this place of, instead of being like, how come she can do it? It might be like, she must have spent more hours on this than I have, period. That would be my challenge.
Yeah.
Because that's reality.
That is reality. Yeah.
It's like, I happened to come across the little golden nugget that told me I happened to hover over this at 12:03 in the morning, pulling out my hair, and I happen to know that now.
Right.
But not because I'm of any more intellect or specialness, like at all.
Yeah, no, I know that. I mean, I know that in my, whatever part of my brain that is, I know that, but yeah, to remember that is a whole different.
So interesting. We're just kind of letting people in on the kind of stories we make up.
Yeah.
I make up a story that I should be productive and efficient and sharp all month long. And it's kind of burning me to have that belief, because then I'm really hard on myself.
Yeah.
So maybe people in our audience can approach a story they've made up about themselves and just see, like, I love Byron Katie's like question of, is that absolutely true?
Right. Yeah.
Because then there's always a crack in there.
Right. Because if in the middle of my craziness, if I were to ask myself, is that absolutely true, Heidi? 100% of the time, the answer would be no, it's not. That's not true. Yeah. I'm one of those people who, I'm very good with Post-its, reminders. Yeah. And if I put a Post-it on my laptop that says, is that absolutely true? That's good. Or if they just would automatically put that in a platform. For those who are struggling right now in the moment, is that absolutely true? What you're telling yourself.
Right. I think that would be amazing.
I think it would totally be amazing. Yeah.
Because here's the thing, right? It's one of my favorite questions for myself and also for my clients when they go down a story, a rabbit hole. It's like, well, okay, could you say that is 100% true? Is there any crack there? Because if there's any crack there, at least you can humble yourself to look at it, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Like, am I less powerful just because I need a few down days? No. But you asked me then, somebody told me to put my cape in a case, and I'm pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But doesn't mean I have less power just because I'm resting.
Right.
If anything, I just powered up.
Exactly. Oh my God, I love that. Yes, you did. You powered up. Yeah, that's so much more true than the other.
Thanks, friend.
Here we are.
Are either of us prepared for a question?
I have a chat pack question.
Cool. Let's do it.
What is the biggest change of opinion you've ever had?
Wow. Well, I think I'm in it. It's been what we're talking about. This would be the biggest change of opinion for me in over 3 decades.
Okay.
Would be to hold myself with more love and compassion when I'm not at my best. It's so easy to love myself when the bank account's full and the scale reads a certain number and like all my relationships are working, right? And like the real work is, can I truly like genuinely love myself when I'm a mess? Right? When I just feel like a total disaster. So I think I'm in it, honestly. The biggest opinion I'm changing, because this one's been with me since I was 11.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good for you.
Thank you. How about you? Biggest opinion you've changed?
Yeah. So I have 2.
Okay.
My first one is the death penalty.
I'm
So
curious.
back in, when I was stupid and ignorant and young and naive, I used to think, oh yeah, this is a good idea. They should, because they did this, they should, right? And then I saw, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's with Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon.
Dead Man Walking.
Dead Man Walking. And when I saw that, I was like, no, this will never be okay. No matter if he committed a crime, no matter what the situation is, death will never be the answer. Someone having poison pumped in, someone being hung, whatever the situation is, the death penalty is just not the answer. It does not right or wrong. And I have read enough articles about people who have, been the families of victims who have been, whatever the death was, whatever the crime was. And they're like, no, we don't want that person to die.
Wow.
Yeah. For a couple of reasons, and I don't need to go into them, but that was kind of like the response. We don't want another death. We don't need another, it doesn't need to be another death because this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I've had a change of opinion on is how I feel about suicide, those who take their lives. I used to think before, again, back when I was really, kind of naive and stupid, I used to think that it was a very selfish thing. And I no longer, I changed that probably 40 some years ago, that thought, that opinion. Because I understand it. Like, I understand it better. I know, yeah, I know I'm educated a little bit more about suicide than I was then. So, yeah, learning. It's just so important to not be ignorant, to continue to educate ourselves and read and learn and have conversations with. And have authentic conversations, and because there's never one side, it's never black and white. There are, so many millions of situations with different people. So yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, those are big ones. Those are really big ones.
Yeah.
And it has me thinking back to our conversation last week, right? Because it's so nuanced, right? There's so much going on in even that conversation in terms of women's rights and all of that. And I just want to share like the nuanced expression I'm feeling now, which isn't like this very polar, like, hey, everyone should have the right for abortion thing. It's this place of like, our system needs to take care of mothers and babies better, so more women can have the opportunity if they want, right? And it's because our systems aren't in place to take care of mothers that some of this is happening. So to me, it's like the middle ground of like, there's not a bunch of people, like I don't see them. I think it's a very polar extreme, the media shows, right? There's not people who are like, yay, abortion. I think the majority of people are like, in extenuating circumstances, people should have this right. And I think on the other end, if there was common ground, it's like, we both don't want that to be happening. But the problem is we don't have good systems in place to take care of the mother and the baby. So maybe we work together to create better infrastructure so that women who want to be mothers have all the support they need. And then, hey, we have less of that happening. And for those extenuating circumstances, we don't put people's health in jeopardy to be, I don't know what to call it, like unconsciously pro-life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best word. That's the best
Yeah.
term, right? Like a 10-year-old shouldn't have to be put in that position.
Ever.
Right? Or an ectopic pregnancy, or someone whose baby's already passed away.
Yeah.
And inside of them. Like, let's be pro-life in a very broad way.
Yes.
It's like that 10-year-old's life is in jeopardy. That ectopic pregnancy is a jeopardy for that mother's life. Whatever. Like, I just want people to come to the table and consider that maybe we all value human life, and there's multiple ways to value human life.
Right. Like
good systems. So that's a place I'm just in the middle of changing opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not pro-life, pro-choice. It's very much like, how do we take care of mothers then? Let's have that conversation. How do we change our budget and our systems so there's not so much mortality and morbidity for mothers and babies?
Well, we start by listening.
Yeah.
Start by listening to each other and asking and staying curious, keeping our minds and our hearts open. That's how we begin, because it has to start somewhere. Yeah.
Which leads me to just quickly plugging our authentic relating class, because even though that was not at all, curated,
No.
folds perfectly into, can we be human? Can we be curious? Can we be open? Can we be teachable? Right? And Heidi and I are putting together a really amazing workshop. We'll put the link in here in the YouTube and the Facebook, around how do we relate to each other when it's hard? How do we care for our nervous system and still show up for each other in these hard conversations, these high stakes conversations? So I just wanted to put that in there as like something that's going to begin August 10th. You're going to hear more about it, and we just want to let you know it's coming, in case you're interested in learning from us and also being in really intimate, sweet community with other people who are going to be learning alongside you. It's intimate. It's going to be 8 people. It's our cap, and that's so that we can really be present and customize the teachings to what is needing to be offered, right, to those particular 8 people. So if you're someone who wants to get that info, definitely check out the link we're going to post.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that? Because I know it's like exciting.
Yeah, I do. I want to add which is, I feel, one of the most important things for, if you're concerned about whether or not you've done work on yourself or not, it doesn't matter. We are starting at ground zero, if you will. And so that way everyone is starting from the same place, creating the foundation together for the tools that you will be manifesting from whatever you're learning from us. And that way you can feel successful and confident as you go forth in your lives, with your relationships. If you are at a place where you've put a relationship on the back burner for a while, and you're like, I'd really like to revisit that, we're the place to come to. We're the course to take, because we're going to support you with that, and we're going to allow you to use the practical skills that we will be sharing and teaching you. Yeah, so it is it's experiential for sure.
Yeah, it's 8 weeks. You're going to be learning things, but then you're going to be thrown into practice with people. And it's in order for you to really wrestle with your nervous system and start to learn who you are and how you're wired. Because if we just taught you the information, that's easy, that's neck up, right? But to embody it and to actually know and own how your nervous system works and take care of it is the game changer, in my opinion. So yeah, we're really excited, and you've got the link, I've got the link, so I'll post it to FB and you can post it to the YouTube. We'd love to have you there. If you've been resonating with anything we've shared, yeah, we're going to be bringing it, and it's going to be both of us bringing our expertise and our gifts to you in service to your high stakes relationships, because they matter.
Yeah.
Really matter. All the studies are showing that the quality of our relationships influence our health, our longevity, our health span, how much of our life we're actually healthy. So it's no joke. And that's what I'm committed to. It's not how many friendships you have, it's the depth and the quality and the meaningfulness of that. So thank you, friend, and thank you to everyone listening. This is great. I'm just so happy. And yeah, looking forward to hearing from each of you. If you have comments, please let us know. We love hearing from you, and we read everything. So if you have questions, resonance, you want to share or be seen in, drop us a line. We'd be happy to hear from you. Okay, friends.
See you next time, everyone.